Poisonous Cheese, from a Treatise on Adulterations of Food and Culinary Poisons, by Fredrick. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Several instances have come under my notice in which Gloucester cheese has been contaminated with red lead, and has produced serious consequences on being taken into the stomach. In one poisonous sample, which it fell to my lot to investigate, the evil had been caused by the sophistication of the annata, employed for coloring cheese. This substance was found to contain a portion of red lead, a method of sophistication which has lately been confirmed by the following fact, communicated to the public by Mr. J. W. Wright of Cambridge. Quote, "As a striking example of the extent to which adulterated articles of food may be unconsciously diffused, and of the consequent difficulty of detecting the real fabricators of them, it may not be uninteresting to relate to your readers the various steps by which the fraud of a poisonous adulteration of cheese was traced to its source. Your readers ought here to be told that several instances are on record that Gloucester and other cheeses have been found contaminated with red lead, and that this contamination has produced serious consequences. In the instance now alluded to, and probably in all other cases, the deleterious mixture had been caused ignorantly by the adulteration of the annata employed for coloring the cheese. This substance, in the instance I shall relate, was found to contain a portion of red lead, a species of adulteration which subsequent experiments have shown to be by no means uncommon. Before I proceed further to trace this fraud to its source, I shall briefly relate the circumstance which gave rise to its detection. A gentleman, who had occasion to reside for some time in a city to the west of England, was one night seized with a distressing but indescribable pain in the region of the abdomen and of the stomach, accompanied with a feeling of tension, which occasioned much restlessness, anxiety, and repugnance to food. He began to apprehend the access of an inflammatory disorder. But in 24 hours the symptoms entirely subsided. In 4 days afterwards he experienced an attack precisely similar, and he then recollected that having, on both occasions, arrived from the country late in the evening, he had ordered a plate of toasted Gloucester cheese, of which he had partaken heartily, a dish which, when at home, regularly served him for supper. He attributed his illness to the cheese. The circumstance was mentioned to the mistress of the inn, who expressed great surprise, as the cheese in question was not purchased from a county dealer, but from a highly respectable shop in London. He, therefore, ascribed the before-mentioned effects to some peculiarity in his constitution. A few days afterwards he partook of the same cheese, and he had scarcely retired to rest when a most violent colic seized him, which lasted the whole night and part of the ensuing day. The cook was now directed henceforth not to serve up any toasted cheese, and he never again experienced these distressing symptoms. Whilst this matter was a subject of conversation in the house, a servant-maid mentioned that a kitten had been violently sick, after having eaten the rind cut off from the cheese prepared for the gentleman's supper. The landlady, in consequence of this statement, ordered the cheese to be examined by a chemist in the vicinity, who returned for answer that the cheese was contaminated with lead. So unexpected an answer arrested general attention, and more particularly as the suspected cheese had been served up with several other customers. Application was therefore made by the London dealer to the farmer who manufactured the cheese. He declared that he had bought the annata of a mercantile traveller, who had supplied him and his neighbours for years with that commodity, without giving occasion to a single complaint. On subsequent inquiries, through a circuitous channel, unnecessary to be detailed here at length, on the part of the manufacturer of the cheese, it was found that as the supplies of annata had been defective and of inferior quality, recourse had been had to the expedient of colouring the commodity with vermilion. Even this admixture could not be considered deleterious, but on further application being made to the druggist who sold the article, the answer was that the vermilion had been mixed with a portion of red lead, and the deception was held to be perfectly innocent, as frequently practised on the supposition that the vermilion would be used only as a pigment for house painting. Thus the druggist sold his vermilion in the regular way of trade, adulterated with red lead to increase his profit, without any suspicion of the use to which it would be applied, and the purchaser who adulterated the annata, presuming that the vermilion was genuine, had no hesitation in heightening the color of his spurious annata with so harmless an adjunct. Thus, through the circuitous and diversified operations of commerce, a portion of deadly poison may find admission into the necessaries of life, in a way which can attach no criminality to the parties through whose hands it has successively passed. This dangerous sophistication may be detected by macerating a portion of the suspected cheese in water impregnated with sulphuretted hydrogen, acidulated with muriatic acid, which will instantly cause the cheese to assume a brown or black color, if the minutest portion of lead be present. End of Poisonous Cheese, from a Treatise on Adulterations of Food and Culinary Poisons, by Fredrick. Read by Harry Caulfield.